episode of The Pontificated. Grab your hot or iced beverage, grab you a snack, and let's debunk all things third eye. Hi, I'm Rain, host of The Pontificated, and a jack of all trades, a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. So let me take you through the credentials, shall we? First and foremost, I am an energy healer and a Usui Reiki master. I am a licensed cosmetologist, an acupressurist. I do press on nails, and I make ritual oils. And I offer tarot readings. So if you're interested in any of the shit that I have, link in the bio, okay? I'm going unfiltered this episode because we're talking about the third eye. Let's jump right in, shall we? So some key terms that come to mind when we think about the third eye is vision, intuition, dreams, insight, perception, psychic abilities. But let's talk about the spiritual psychosis that happens when we awaken and we don't realize that this is truly an energy game, that we're taking it back to atoms and neutrons and protons and electrons and quantum fields, okay? But that's essentially what we're doing. So when we wake up the third eye, because that's fun, everybody wants abilities, but what we fail to realize is our abilities are likely distorted if we're running distortions in the rest of the system. We can't pick and choose, well, I just want to activate my third eye, but fuck my root chakra. Seriously? So all of the information that you're processing through your logical and unlogical mind is literally being distorted by the bottom of your energy system. So, which can create spiritual psychosis. And this is a very real thing among the spiritual community. Because we're bypassing 6 other major energy centers to just focus on one because we want psychic abilities. You're psychic regardless. We have 6, or no, was it 5 senses? Yeah, we have the 5 senses. But we also have our psychic senses as well. And so our psychic senses are our clair senses. And through those clair senses that we all have, the only reason that most people don't consider themselves psychic or have that intuitive knowing is because they're desensitized to energy. They've been programmed, masked, and veiled their entire lives and fed a false narrative of the truth of energetics, going back to Hermetics. So Aina, or the third eye, is the space where the conscious and the unconscious collide and meet. It's the place of imagination and insight. It's the source of intellectual understanding, the seat of judgment, emotional intelligence, rationality, and wisdom. In Sanskrit, Aina translates to command or to perceive. It's your last of your embodied chakras. It's the highest point in which you can view things. So this is taking abstract thinking and formulating it into essentially organized skills. Our seat of intuition, extraterrestrial perception, and our 6th sense, which manages our 5 physical senses, but also our clair senses as well, which tend to be demagnetized and desensitized as we go through our formative years. This energy center moves outward, making up the 6th layer of the auric field, the celestial body. And this carries a strong vibration. It's the connection between yourself and the divine, along with all other things and beings, in a place of unconditional love. It's often poisoned by the distortion of the other chakras, by false narratives, by indoctrinations and programming, not only culturally, religiously, but within our own ancestral and familial lineage. Chakra tends to encourage balance of the other chakras. As you know, the signs do sign. So if you know, you know. And those who know, you get bombarded with the same numbers, the same words, the same visuals, the same energy, which is the attempt of your higher self to regulate the vessel. So when imbalanced, we utilize additional information and combine it with our innate inner wisdom in order to make decisions that are not based out of fear or ego driven, especially not out of woundings. This chakra enables us to use our mind and the power of visualization to have a positive impact on our own lives and the people around us. It really forces you to think past your programs and your taught thinkings, your known surroundings, and really completely trust that whisper within that maybe I don't want to do things this way. Maybe that's not so healthy. Maybe I see this pattern going on in my family. And so when we have that awareness, we can make better decisions for ourselves, which heals the past, but also creates a better, healthier future. The intuition is much like a muscle. So the more that you strengthen it, the more that you play intuitive games, the more that you trust and verify. I always say this to clients, friends, anybody I'm talking to energy about. If you start feeling a thought about a person, if somebody pops up in your mind, if you're seeing constant signs or their person's name, and you reach out or they reach out to you, ask, were you thinking about me a couple days ago? I've seen your name everywhere. And verify. Because what that does is when we verify and we get that confirmation that yes, this is what's going on, it boosts our confidence to trust it more. So just like any muscle, you can't go to the gym one time and expect to be ripped and juicy. Lord, I wish you could. Okay, all this wishes that happened that way. But our intuition is much like going to the gym. It will not strengthen unless you do exercises to strengthen it. And so using tarot cards, divination tools, having a friend that you can just, think colors or thoughts or pictures or, I know many of you have reached and picked up that phone and call your friend and you're like, I don't know, I was just thinking about you. Is everything okay? And they're like, bitch, I'm in the car crying. We all have that women's intuition or that innate knowing. It's just a matter of taking off all of the veils and realizing that everything is essentially energy. And so our third eye really, when we pick up the energy that is coming in, no matter where it's hitting at in our bodies or within our innate knowing, we have the ability to decode that. And if we're not decoding it, we're missing out so many beautiful opportunities for magic to really happen in our lives. There's nothing more satisfying to me than having a conversation with a friend, and I have these very deep, philosophical, energetic conversations with my friends, and we're talking, and some symbol or sign will pop up, and later on that day I'm going about my business, and bam, there it goes. Then the time, then there's more information that goes with the pieces that were already there, and you start seeing things from a bigger picture, a larger perspective. That's where that interconnectedness comes from. That's truly where our oneness, we realize hey, if so-and-so is picking up this sign, but then I tell so-and-so this story, but then they both come back with photos of the same thing we're talking about, we've just tapped into collective consciousness. And that is the pivotal turning point for humanity's evolution, not just you or I. So much bigger than that. So let's jump into imbalances. Jumping to conclusions, being extremely indecisive, having unexplained dizziness, regular migraines, poor eyesight, lack of concentration, lack of clarity, mental confusion. Those are all key signs of distortion within our third eye. Now, distortions can manifest whether the energy is overactive or underactive. So for overactive or excessive energy concentration of the third eye, we can manifest that in the following ways: obsession over psychic experiences, feeling overly paranoid, experiencing hallucinations, having a tendency to space out, having difficulty concentrating, experiencing frequent nightmares, exploiting physical abilities, inability to do mundane tasks, experienced a preoccupied mind, setting unrealistic goals and expectations for yourself and others. This is something I have to be real honest with you guys about. I struggle with till this day. I think it's because I'm a Capricorn. I think it's because I am so goal and time driven that I have unrealistic expectations for myself that I know that I can't meet. And sometimes I lack compassion for myself knowing that I can't do it. But then that also translates to other connections, which is definitely something that I'm working on. So if any of these things you've been experiencing, leave a comment below. And that way we can open up the door for a community and healthier ways to go about some of the extra energy or the distortion that we may be running. Because it's hard to form new neuro pathways. Those programs, especially ones that have been driven in most of our lives, especially during childhood, those are what we consider hardwired in the energy world. So taking those hard wires and creating something new is a process within itself. And so compassion is definitely going to be your best friend, especially along this journey. Having a holier than thou attitude is extremely indicative of overactive and lack capacity to tune into intuition. Tends to lack compassion but overly intelligent. No, this was me too for a while. Vision problems, sinus problems, migraines, insomnia. On the other end of the spectrum, when we have an underactive or a deficient third eye energy supply, they're going to manifest in the following ways. And here are some of the most common. Is trouble planning your future. If you really can't sit down and have a 5, 10, 15-year plan for yourself, that's definitely some lack of inner knowing of where you want to go. And remember, when we don't have direction, we're subject to go adrift, and we can get lost that way. So it's really imperative to check in with ourselves on a regular basis. Feeling a sense of denial, an inability to focus on intuition or inability to focus in general. Sinus problems, setting your standards too low. You fear new ideas or experiences. Unaware of psychic sensations, just completely oblivious to the signs, which is where the majority of the collective is, and that's changing rapidly. It's changing because every day people are waking up to the sensitivities of energy from other people, energy from themselves. They're getting intuitive nudges that become where you can't avoid or deny them. And a lot of times that's through our health. So our health tends to be that thing that's the catalyst for evolution and growth. So when we talk about healing, we have several ways to bring energy. And some of the ways that I teach, I've had a lot of clients tell me over the years, like, that just seems too easy. Like, that's it? That's all I have to do? Absolutely. It's not complicated. We as humans just want to make things more complicated, especially in the spiritual space where there's so much information and there's so much verbiage that a lot of times people experience the same sensations, the same things, but it's called different verb or different terminology depending on what form of spirituality or religion you've got going on. So it creates a separation from that. So I don't do all of the formal mumbo jumbo. I do what worked for me. And what worked for me has worked for many other people because it takes it back to the absolute basics. We don't need complicated shit to learn how to regulate our emotions, to understand our emotions, to understand our energy. All we simply need to do is be still. And the third eye promotes that stillness. It promotes going inward to see where the distortions are. To be like, hey, I've been trying to tell you with your, your left knee hurting over here that your roots, something within your family lineage is stored within you. It's time to take a look at that. And we tend to bypass that and think that our bodies are just malfunctioning. No, our bodies are trying to communicate the need for healing, the need for release of stagnant energy, the need to cut the cords. I always encourage exploration. So explore different modalities. What worked for me may not work for you, but there are several modalities that are going to promote removing stagnation and energy and cellular regeneration and rejuvenation. So color theory, always a favorite, super easy. You either eat it, you look at it, or you wear it. And with the third eye, it's associated with the color deep blue or indigo. So anytime you wear deep blue, indigo, or you eat things that are colored that way, you're bringing an awareness. So you're bringing regeneration as you ingest those foods. So blackberries, purple grapes, cabbage, rape. The third eye can also be balanced with the solfeggio frequency or the sound frequency of nature. It's a note A and it's a frequency of 852 hertz. So playing sound therapy during sleep, I've said this on every single debunked video, and I will go to my grave on this. Play the fucking music while you sleep. It does so much rejuvenation and regeneration on a cellular level that you can literally, without doing shadow work, regulate your nervous system just by sleeping with sounds. And YouTube has them for free. Okay? So there's literally no excuses. And another thing I will ride on the hill till is our crystal friends. Give them a job, clean them, program them, and put them to work. Labradorite is my absolute favorite for third eye. So is fluorite and sodalite. So, but go explore crystals, because sometimes what works for you may not work for me, and vice versa. And where labradorite is my absolute all-time favorite, sodalite might be yours. So whatever the energy feels like between you and the crystal, go and work off of that and use that kind of as a basis. And a lot of times if you choose crystals randomly, like you just go into a crystal store and you pick up something that you just think is pretty, or you called to it, or whatever the reason is, because I used to do this so much when I first started with crystals, I would go home and then I would look up what I bought. And every time it was shit I didn't know that I needed, but I needed. So trust your intuition. That's a good third eye practice. Incorporating yoga, Reiki, Qigong, tapping, somatic techniques, acupressure, any wellness modalities is going to flush the system. And so when we flush the system, guess what? We get more solar and divine energy coming in, and we're able to process, again, new neural pathways from a higher level of consciousness, a higher level of awareness, and a higher level of emotional intelligence. That, my friend, is divine alchemy, and those are the keys. Literally color, watching what you ingest and what you listen to, and movement. So shadow work is essential. I know we like to bypass that because nobody wants to sit in the hole of our shit. Okay, I get it. I fucking get it. As a person who sits in the hall of my own shit on a regular basis, and I hold space for so many others and their shit on a regular basis, I'm kind of, adept in the darkness and in the depths of it. And that's the whole key, is you're supposed to go down to the depths and then come through the black hole. Use that as a catalyst to propel you into the new phase, into the higher ascensions, and then boom, like the Big Bang, you just come out the white hole. And it's a beautiful fucking process, energetically speaking. Not so much on the 3D reality, because you're sitting there holding on to the edge of the bed like, what the fuck is happening to me? You're not going crazy. Well, you might be until you get everything balanced. But, yeah, I digress. All right, so some journal prompts for this week to kind of bring those shadowy aspects of the third eye into awareness to heal and purify. Let's go. When was the last time you realized you were deluded or believed something that was false? What was that experience like for you? When you found out that you had been bamboozled by a truth that you truly believed? In what ways do you distrust your intuition? This is a beautiful one. I wrote a lot. I wrote books a few years ago when I was formulating my own journey, but formulating this book as well. The ways that we think we are trusting our intuition, and sometimes we're like, yeah, I should have never went with this person, or I should have never did this, or I should have never did that. And we thought we trusted our intuition, was really just part of our karmic growth and evolution. So, sometimes we will tend to not trust ourselves because we thought we trusted ourselves in the past, and so now this is a pattern that's formulated. Do you consider yourself intuitive or empathic? And if so, why or why not? Because if you've been watching this video thus far, you know that everybody has psychic and clair abilities. We all have that sixth sense. It's just a matter of tapping into it. After we do all of this shadow work, and we are programming from a cellular level as we sleep, we are being consciously aware to try to eat the rainbow to create balance within our vessel. It's always good to affirm a healthy mindset, especially when we're working with the third eye, which governs our eyes all the way around our brain. So with affirmations, we say them loudly, we say them proudly, we say them from our chest, we say them until we feel a change in the body, and that's when the energy starts to recalibrate. So that's when those new neuro pathways are formed. So let's go. These are some of my favorite. And feel free to use and make up your own. Feel free to write them, put them on your phone, put them, on your mirror. Put them where you can see them every day. Remind yourself, you are a baddie with a caddy. Yes. So, I trust my intuition always. Every situation is an opportunity for growth. You got to get out of victim mentality. Got to. I'm going to be your friend by being your friend. What happened to you is not your story. How you overcome it is. And I had to cough for that one to clear my throat chakra out to speak some truth to you, because that is love. Truth is love. My third eye sees all. And this will strengthen your intuitive abilities by saying, my third eye sees all. It's creating a subconscious awareness to pay the fuck attention. I can manifest my vision, and that's the most powerful one. I can manifest my vision. We do that by having a healthy solar plexus, taking aligned actions, listening to our heart space, and knowing that we have the rooting and the power to create. For this week's episode, thank you for joining me. If you made it this far, I appreciate all of your love, support, and kind words. This has been a feat and a journey within itself to get out of my own way. So thank you for being here. please drop a rainbow. Um, Leave a comment, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And I will see you next Wednesday, and join me daily for shorts. I love you. Have a beautiful day on purpose. Remember to live and love out loud.